channel is French when we want to listen to him.
French is one. If you want to hear the French, yes. Three. But I want to put it onto French to understand as it would be translated into English. Three. Three. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So French would be the one.
Yeah. Okay. I want to hear English. Yeah. Yes.
Buongiorno a tutte e a tutti. Sono Sara Bellicini, non so neanche dire il mio cognome, quindi partiamo bene. Responsabile diversità e inclusione del Locarno Film Festival. Vi ringrazio moltissimo per essere qui oggi, per aver deciso in questa soleggiatissima domenica di agosto di prendere parte a questa necessaria e importante conversazione che sono sicura sarà molto arricchente per tutti noi. If you want to understand what I'm saying, you can put that. Ok? La discussione l'abbiamo chiamata Abbracciare la diversità. Abbracciare la diversità significa riconoscere la varietà e la ricchezza dell'esperienza umana senza cadere nella tentazione di categorizzarla attraverso schemi preconcetti. Significa mettersi scomodi, decostruire i nostri pregiudizi ed aprirci alle infinite e meravigliose sfumature dell'esistere. Significa mettersi in ascolto, dare spazio alle voci di chi con la diversità viene etichettato, a volte con conseguenze discriminanti. Ed è proprio questo l'obiettivo di questo panel, dare spazio a queste voci, scoprire nuovi modi di pensare e di vivere con la certezza che abbiamo tanto da imparare come festival, come individui e come comunità. Dall'inizio dell'anno il festival ha intrapreso una partnership con il servizio cultura inclusiva di Pro Infirmis con l'obiettivo di migliorarsi sempre di più e, ascoltando chi la diversità la vive quotidianamente, costruire insieme una manifestazione sempre più accogliente e accessibile per tutte le persone. Stiamo gradualmente introducendo una serie di misure e iniziative che potete scoprire nei dettagli sul nostro sito internet ed è in questo contesto che si inserisce la conversazione di oggi, che verrà moderata da Fatia Bai, Diversity and Inclusion Officer della European Film Academy, a cui fra pochissimo darò la parola. La discussione sarà in inglese, ci sarà la traduzione in italiano, in francese e nella lingua dei segni italiana. Per la prima volta in Svizzera la traduzione verrà fatta da un interprete sordo, Mikhail Akimov, che è uno studente del primo corso di studio avanzato in traduzione per traduttrici e traduttori sordi dell'Università di Ginevra. Lui verrà supervisionato dalla professoressa Chiara Di Monte e tradurrà la conversazione in quella che è la sua lingua madre, a partire dalla traduzione che per lui farà Giancarla Calitri, arricchendola di tutte le sue sfumature. Aggiungo soltanto che grazie alla collaborazione con moresi.com per chi avesse bisogno una trascrizione live della conversazione, che è anche disponibile in altre lingue, è possibile collegarsi all'indirizzo che vedete sullo schermo o scansionare il QR code. Se avete bisogno di scansionarlo non preoccupatevi ad avvicinarvi e fare una foto con il telefono. Alla fine della conversazione ci sarà un piccolo aperitivo, quindi non scappate subito. E adesso cedo finalmente la parola a Fati e vi invito a mettervi scomodi. Grazie a tutti.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming, attending this panel on a Sunday morning. I really appreciate it. The panel today is called Embracing Diversity. As Sarah mentioned in the introduction, my name is Fatia Bay. I'm the Diversity Inclusion Officer of the European Film Academy. And today I'm happy to moderate this session with these very three interesting panelists. I will actually dive in because our panel is really scheduled only for 45 minutes. As you see and heard about, we have a lot of translation going on. So if you basically have a QR code, you can QR code, and then in terms of getting the introduction, the translations also in subtitles. We have also on the panel somebody speaking in French. Obviously, if you understand French, you're welcome to really try and listen. But if it's more for you easier to have a translation, then I would appreciate that you have the QR code scanned for your help. So I will basically just very easy kind of session of diversity, embracing diversity and inclusion. And especially today, we have a focus on disability. Disability in the last years, the representation of disability in the film industry is a very, very well discussed topic. And obviously, we don't want to like have a panel here now what we should not do or not do, but how we talk about the disability and how these, we have also filmmakers from various aspects, how actually maybe what we have to pay attention today in the industry when we represent disability on screen and behind the screen. I will introduce the panel today. On my very, very left, at the end of the table, we have Stavros Zafiris. He is from Greece, dancer and actor. And after his studies at the Department of Theatre Studies at the National and Kapostri University of Athens, he became a member of the dance company in Athens. And in 2018, he started also acting at the professional troupe Tiama. He's here in Locarno with his first acting role in a big feature, Touched, directed by the German director Claudia Horarius. If you really did not see the movie, I really encourage to see it. It has its premiere tomorrow.
Yes.
And welcome, Stavros.
Thank you.
Then we have on his right Claire Baines. Claire Baines is a disability equality lead at the BFI, a position she started in 2022. She's reporting to BFI's very well-known head in the industry, Melanie Hoyes, and is responsible for driving forward the BFI strategic aims and objectives for people who identify as deaf, disabled, or neurodiverse, including implementing sustainable interventions to prevent ableism in the screen industry. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you for having me.
And to my left here is Pascal Plisson, a self-taught, well-known director and documentary filmmaker from France who began his career in 1984. He did several films for the National Geographic Channel, BBC, and Canal Plus in France, and he released several well-known films such as Maasai les guerriers de la pluie, in English Maasai the Rain Warriors in 2003, and very, very well-known also because it had a very, very premiere here 10 years ago, Sur le chemin de l'école in Locarno, on the way to school, for which he won also the César in 2014. Pascal has here a screening in Locarno Film Festival with his new documentary on disabled youth and kids, We Have a Dream. Welcome, Pascal.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I think I would just really dive into the discussion, and I would maybe ask in the beginning, because there's always this kind of unsureness or unknown how we talk about disability and what terminology is appropriate. And I think I would ask here first you, Claire, because you work for an institution, for a funding institution, and even more, the BFI is very well known for its incentives. What did you, for example, what kind of measures did you do about how we talk about disability today in the film industry?
Yeah, so language is constantly evolving. We have a set of preferred terms that we use at the BFI as a way to open the conversation around disability. We've recently reiterated those because language has changed. So the way that we've done that is by consulting with the groups themselves, asking how do they identify, what terminology do they want to use, and really using that as a way to share it with non-disabled people about how we talk about disability, because I think that's, as you said, the concern is getting things wrong. But if we can give people the toolkit and the knowledge of how we can talk about disability, then it's always great. Specifically at the BFI, we use identity-based language. That comes from a place of not seeing disability as a bad thing, like it's a part of who you are, and that's wonderful. And we also use the social model rather than the medical model. So the social model is saying that you're disabled by your environment, not by your own impairments or your condition.
So yeah, that's kind of how we use language as a way of equipping people so that they feel comfortable talking to disabled people. And so we share that with our venues, we share that with our filmmakers, anybody who we work with, we use these preferred terms.
And inclusion of disability is also have a lot to do with accessibility. So Claire, in this regard, do you do also recommendations for festivals in the UK, how to accessible the venues? I remember, for example, I've been in festivals since I started the position last year. And I mean, it's very beautiful. We have very beautiful theater venues, but they are not really accessible.
No, definitely. So the BFI is responsible for London Film Festival, London International Film Festival, and it's very exciting this year because we have a new role, which is an access coordinator. So this is a role that's been used in high-end TV, and they are effectively a person who's there to accommodate people's access needs, access requirements, and put those things into place. So very excitingly, this year we have an access coordinator at London Film Festival. So that's a way for our audiences, our guests, talent, whoever that may be, as a way to know that they have somebody that they can directly speak to and discuss their needs, discuss their requirements, and feel accommodated, feel welcomed, and be able to have the same equitable experience at a festival. Because I think that's the thing that this is all about, is about equity. And without access requirements being met, you don't have equity. So yeah, I think that's specifically what we do with film festivals. We also have a film festival called Busting the Bias, which is an intersectional celebration of disabled filmmaking. So what makes it different from other disability film festivals is that we only screen things made by disabled people to have that authentic representation, so on and so forth. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. I would come actually right now to you, Stavros, because you will play, I mean, your film will be screened tomorrow at the premiere, Touched. I saw it already at the industry screening, and I really encourage people to see it. It's handling disability from a very, very specific point of view. I don't want to spoil much, but still it's about also the idea of how actually bodies have a right for sexuality, for example. And I want to ask you, Stavros, how was it at set? What were the conditions for you as an actor? How did you feel? And when you read the script, what was the thing where you think, okay, this role is kind of drawing attention to me? And yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I read the script, I was thrilled to see such a picture of disabled sexuality, so risque and so daring. So I really wanted to do it. And when it comes to the set, I think it was important not to lose that risque factor, because even though it was a disabled person and a fat person, you couldn't lose the risk factor. It had to be there, so it didn't really matter if I was disabled and she was fat. We had to keep it human. We have to keep it risky. So yeah, that's what I enjoyed, and that's what I find interesting about the film.
And you had a lot of intimate scenes in the movie. Did you had on set also a special intimacy coach?
Yeah. We had an intimacy coach. Of course, she figured out our boundaries, and we had to make sure about it, so nobody was hurt. And yeah.
Yeah. And as an actor who just starting, obviously, your career now, but as a disabled actor, what you would actually appreciate from the film industry, like from producers or filmmakers when they come with roles for you?
Yeah, I would appreciate for there to be more imaginative. I would really love for them to be able to create worlds and environments that a disabled person is not just a disabled person in a film. We can be, a lot more. We are artists in the end. So, yeah, more imagination, more boldness, more courage.
Thank you. And Pascal, you had your film yesterday premiered. We Have a Dream, and it's about the disabled youth all over the world. It dives into 5 different countries, starting from France, but then also going to Kenya, to Asia, and Latin America. And you showed it in front of children and the youth. So what did you, when you decided to make this movie, how long was it in preparation, and how did you have the idea? But then also, as a director, portraying this youth, what were the attentions you paid on set or by filming that movie?
Oui, bonjour. Alors, cette idée de film autour du handicap est née il y a quand même quelques années. Et c'est vrai que quand on décide de faire un film autour du handicap, l'accueil est parfois difficile parce qu'on se demande comment on va filmer le handicap, de quelle manière, qu'est-ce qu'on va raconter, qu'est-ce qu'on va montrer. Et donc l'idée a été de... J'avais rencontré sur un précédent film sur le chemin de l'école 3 frères, dont un qui était en fauteuil roulant. Et ces 2 frères poussaient le fauteuil de leur grand frère pour qu'il puisse aller vers l'école. Et j'avais rencontré dans cette famille un amour incroyable. Et moi qui n'avais jamais été au contact du handicap, j'ai rencontré 3 enfants qui m'ont montré qu'avec un handicap, en fait, on pouvait vivre comme les autres et s'intégrer parmi les autres à partir du moment où les autres acceptaient la différence. Et ces 2 frères m'ont ému et je me suis dit qu'un jour, j'aimerais faire un film autour du handicap. Ça a pris un petit peu de temps et puis j'ai décidé de le faire. Alors de quelle manière le faire? Qu'est-ce qu'on montre? Qu'est-ce qu'on raconte? Donc mon idée a été de faire un film pour les enfants et de leur montrer que la différence n'était pas un obstacle. On avait besoin de différence de notre société, qu'il fallait l'accepter. Et donc j'ai choisi de faire un film avec des enfants qui avaient entre 9 et 14 ans. Il y a une histoire au Kenya d'un jeune garçon qui est non-voyant, qui est dans une école où il y a 500 enfants non-voyants et qui rêve d'être dans une école inclusive et donc de changer d'école pour pouvoir s'intégrer parmi les voyants. C'était un jeune garçon qui était fou de course à pied. Et donc, grâce à la course à pied, en tant que non-voyant, ça lui a permis de changer d'école. Et sa vie a été complètement transformée parce qu'il a été dans une école inclusive. Il y a une histoire dans ce film autour de 2 jeunes filles au Népal qui ont été ensevelies sous un tremblement de terre en 2015 et qui ont été chacune amputées d'une jambe et qui se sont réveillées dans la même chambre d'hôpital et qui sont devenues les meilleures amies du monde et qui aujourd'hui se reconstruisent chacune avec leur prothèse de la société. Et puis nous avons aussi un jeune garçon au Rwanda qui est albinos. Il faut savoir que l'albinisme en Afrique est encore aujourd'hui... il y a encore de la sorcellerie autour de l'albinos et de l'albinisme en Afrique. Les enfants sont parfois enlevés et sacrifiés. Et donc c'est ce jeune garçon qui a une enfance très particulière a trouvé un maître d'école qui l'a accepté dans son école. Et ça lui a changé la vie parce qu'en fait, au début, on lui jetait des cailloux, on l'insultait, on lui disait qu'il sentait mauvais. Et finalement, c'est devenu la star de l'école. Et aujourd'hui, c'est un enfant qui est épanoui grâce à un professeur qui a décidé de l'accepter dans son école. Et donc, c'est le parcours de cet enfant, de son intégration dans cette école, qui montre que la bienveillance, parfois, permet des choses extraordinaires. Et aujourd'hui, cet enfant est heureux, il a 14 ans, il est incroyable. Et puis, nous avons une histoire aussi au Brésil, d'un jeune garçon qui est autiste, avec un TDAH très fort. L'inclusion au Brésil est très peu répandue dans les écoles. Et donc, c'est le combat de ses parents, dont le papa est en fauteuil aussi, le combat de ses parents pour essayer de trouver une école inclusive de manière à ce que cet enfant puisse aller à l'école comme tout le monde, parce qu'il est très sociable. Et le Brésil a besoin aujourd'hui d'être beaucoup plus inclusif avec le handicap. Et puis une jeune Française, pour terminer, Maude, qui a 14 ans, qui est jumelle, et qui a été amputée de la jambe à la naissance parce que sa jambe se nécrosait, et donc qui s'est révélée être sourde profonde aussi. Et aujourd'hui, Maude fait de la gymnastique, elle fait de la danse classique, elle joue du violoncelle, on lui a mis des implants cochléaires, elle fait du violoncelle, et elle est extraordinaire, elle s'est construite avec sa sœur jumelle qui, elle, n'a rien. Et donc, tous ces enfants-là, c'est un portrait d'histoire croisée qui nous fait partager la vie de ces enfants. Alors, comment une famille accepte qu'on s'intègre dans leur intimité autour du handicap? C'est toujours été la vraie question aujourd'hui. Et il y a des gens qui n'ont pas accepté qu'on les tourne parce qu'ils ne voulaient pas qu'on montre le handicap de leur enfant. Et d'autres familles qui, au contraire, ont trouvé que c'était une opportunité extraordinaire de montrer qu'il y a beaucoup d'amour autour d'enfants atteints de handicap et que le handicap n'était pas un obstacle à vivre parmi tout le monde. Et donc ce film raconte cette aventure-là, et c'est un film sur l'amour en fait, l'amour des parents, parce que les parents jouent un rôle considérable dans l'éducation de leur enfant. Et je n'ai jamais vu des parents aussi aimants que ces parents-là qui ont un enfant en situation de handicap. Ça a été pour moi une découverte, et ce sont pour moi des exemples.
Thank you very much for outlining also again the movie. As a director, did you particularly pay attention when you were shooting it, how to represent disability on screen? And how did the research go, for example, before?
L'idée, c'était de faire un film très positif et donc de montrer les choses telles qu'elles sont, c'est-à-dire des moignons, des prothèses, d'aller sur le handicap tel qu'on le montre pas souvent, mais avec de la poésie. J'ai voulu mettre pas mal de poésie dans cette histoire, et de manière à ce que les enfants puissent aussi être sensibilisés par ça. Et donc, on a fait un travail de lumière, de cadrage, de la manière de filmer le handicap, de manière à le rendre, à quelque part ne plus le voir. Et ça a été un travail assez compliqué. Mais ce qui était intéressant, c'est que finalement, les enfants étaient... D'abord, on a créé un lien très fort avec les enfants parce qu'ils ont compris que c'était un film très important pour eux de montrer leur handicap et de ne pas le cacher. Souvent, on cache le handicap. C'est ce qui se passe souvent au Rwanda, par exemple, avec les enfants albinos. Les parents n'osent pas les envoyer dans les écoles de peur que ça se passe mal. Et en fait, il faut montrer le handicap. Il faut qu'à l'école, les enfants acceptent la différence. Et c'est le travail de ce film. Il est vraiment dédié aux écoles, de manière à ce que dans les écoles, on puisse montrer ce film et que les enfants aient un autre rapport avec le handicap et la différence.
Thank you very much. Claire, hearing this from the creative point of view, how can the film industry actually then better address also intersectionality and representation to create more authentic and layered portrayals of characters on screen, but also involving obviously disabled filmmakers behind the camera?
Yeah, so obviously on-screen representation and authentic representation is sometimes difficult to come by. The way that we address that is by not having cripping up. So cripping up is a practice of where a non-disabled actor plays a disabled role. The reason why that this can be harmful is that they can lean into stereotypes, they can change society's view of a certain disability, and that can be incredibly difficult being a disabled person in the world if that's people's only representation of disability that they know. So the way that we address this is, one, by not indulging the idea of cripping up. Films that we fund don't involve cripping up. So putting our money where our mouth is. But also, we also fund distribution of films. So the way that we check whether that's okay is we have, I think, the first panel of this kind. It's called the Disability and Visible Difference Panel. It was the brainchild of, his name is David Proud. He is a wonderful disabled writer, and he was really frustrated with the current representations that he was seeing on screen. So he came to us with this idea of the Disability and Visible Difference Panel, and it's a collective of disabled artists, writers, directors, who will view films and judge whether it is a good representation of disability. It's really interesting because there's still discourse. Like, some people think that certain representations are okay, some people think it's absolutely not, but I think that shows the diversity within the disability community, and I think it's so important to consult with the people who it's about. to really address authentic representation. And then to answer the other part of your question of off-screen, behind the camera, how do we address that? So we have inclusion targets, and that's a way that we keep ourselves accountable of what are we funding, who are we supporting, and the way we can address that is by using the diversity standards. It's a tool that we have at the BFI where we can understand people's protected characteristics and really understand who are we funding and support an authentic representation of the UK, because we are a government-funded body, so we have to meet those targets. And I think it's a good way to keep us accountable, so yeah.
Stavros, if you look at the film industry, how do you basically see the representation of authentic representation of disability in screen? Claire just mentioned cripping up. I mean, we live in a film industry where awards are also
it's a
basically
tradition.
It's a tradition where basically abled actors are playing basically roles which are kind of playing disabled roles. So how do you see it?
I think that things are slowly opening up in a better direction. I actually like some older performances from like bigger actors when it comes to like their approach to a disabled role, but you know, it's a new era, and I think that slowly opening up to disabled performers, disabled filmmakers, it's getting better, I think, but you know, we still have a long way to go. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I think I would open now the panel to the public. If you have questions, please raise your hand, and then we would address the questions to the panelists. No questions? Yes, there. Do we have a microphone or coming?
Thank you. I was just wondering if you could, all of you, talk about intersectionality when thinking about disability and how important it is or isn't, perhaps.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Thank you. Intersectionality, I think, is so important. I think also being an intersectional disabled person, I think, until we have that and address those inequalities, then it's going to be a tough way to go. I think partially it's like if disabled people can't get into the building, then you're not going to have like intersectional representation. I think also it's a combination of, you know, racism, transphobia, like how do you address all of these inequities within the film industry and make it a more hospitable, inclusive place. Also just making space for these people to tell their own stories, give them the opportunity, make space at the table. I recently shot a short film, which is a queer disabled story, and I think having these opportunities for young or new filmmakers to tell the stories that we haven't seen before is so incredibly important. And until that, I don't know if intersectionality will be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions there behind?
Hi, I have a question to Stavros. I already saw the movie and I was really touched. So,
You too.
And I was wondering how you were involved in the whole script process.
It was an open casting call that came through a friend of mine. He's also a disabled director and actor in Greece, and there was an open casting call, and they were asking for a person that kind of fitted me, you know. And I went in. I did the casting, and it went well. So I was lucky. Yeah, that's it. I was really lucky for this casting call to to reach me, because yeah, I was lucky actually. Yeah.
Let me know if you were involved in the script writing, right? Because I'm really interested as well. If the director or the screenwriter asks you a suggestion from you, from your own experience, for the actual script.
No.
Okay.
The script was already written, but in the creative process, there's going to be add things like from your experience and your performance, inevitably. So actually, when I read the script, I thought it was great. So I wouldn't change much either way. So yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, here.
Ho una domanda per Stavros.
Stavros, you need to...
Oh shit.
È vero che finora i film dove gli attori sono disabili e interpretano un ruolo di una persona disabile sono veramente molto pochi, e sono curiosa di sapere come ti sentiresti se ti venisse proposto una scenografia dove dovresti rappresentare qualcuno senza disabilità. Come sarebbe per te se ti presentassero una sceneggiatura per interpretare un ruolo di una persona senza disabilità? Come adotteresti la scenografia per un ruolo di una persona senza disabilità? Allora, provo a ripetere per renderla un po' più chiara la mia domanda.
Yeah.
Lo sceneggiatore, metti caso che ci sia uno sceneggiatore senza disabilità che scrive la sceneggiatura di un film. Tu sei un attore con disabilità e potresti dare il tuo contributo per adattare questa sceneggiatura. Che cosa, visto se lo sceneggiatore appunto senza disabilità non ha questa esperienza, che cosa potresti dare tu come contributo? Non so se è chiara la domanda.
Yeah. Very
Yes,
clear.
thank you very much. Very clear. And a very good question.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about previously, that creators have to be more imaginative. They have to imagine disabled actors in roles that are not for disabled actors. Like we have to be put into a more everyday scenarios. So I wouldn't do anything different. Like, does a person that is not in a wheelchair feel the same emotions that I do? Like, my approach would be the same as it would be in a disabled role. Like, nothing different.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Otherwise, I would also, again, maybe have a remark, but also a question back to Pascal, but also to Stavros, because you are in films here at the festival, which obviously also aims to have a certain audience or make the audience also feel about a certain subject. You presented your film in the generation section here, especially young kids. I was there also in the cinema. I saw the industry screening, and the first thing what I do in every movie is after 10 minutes, I just turn and look the audience in the cinema, how they react. And the reactions are very interesting to see, especially in certain scenes. So I wanted to also ask for the audience in general, or what you wish actually that the audience take from both films. Maybe we can start with you, Pascal.
Avec We Have a Dream, nous avons fait des projections avec des écoles. Et c'était très intéressant avec des enfants âgés environ entre 7 et 12 ans. Et en fait, ils ont été très, très touchés par ce film et ça leur a ouvert les yeux sur le handicap. Et les questions étaient très intéressantes parce que c'était des questions. C'était des questions autour de l'inclusion, autour d'enfants dans leur école qui avaient des handicaps. Et c'est vrai que on pensait qu'en fait les enfants allaient avoir du mal à regarder certaines séquences. Et en fait, on s'est rendu compte que c'était plutôt les adultes qui avaient du mal à regarder certaines séquences et que les enfants, eux, au contraire, étaient très à l'aise avec certaines images qu'on imaginait les choquer un petit peu. Et en fait, pas du tout. Et je pense que cette génération-là d'enfants, si on arrive aujourd'hui dans les écoles à leur parler du handicap, de la différence, de l'inclusion, je pense que ce sera très intéressant de les voir dans quelques années parce que leur regard sur le handicap sera très différent. Et ce film, en tout cas, les touche beaucoup.
Thank you, Stavros.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about what kind of reaction I would like for the audience to have. I would really like them to come with, an open heart and an open mind, and if they're able to experience the emotions alongside with the characters, and feel like they are part of their humanity, that would be great. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. Are there any questions more from the audience? There is a question.
I have a question. Like, how do you organize? Because in the film industry, in classical film industry, it's really able-bodied, and the shooting plans is always very intense and very long hours, and it's not. Yeah, and I was wondering if you have you could talk about experiences of where you have been on sets where it was done differently, and how was it for you? Yeah, I don't know if it's really clear.
When it comes to the long hours,
also because it's always so packed and few days and really long hours and. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really interesting question because as a disabled person, sometimes you need a bit, especially if you're in a wheelchair, you need a bit of time to rest. Like you need to get off your wheelchair and decompress your body. So if we were working 14 hours and or 12 hours, or it was, was rush hour, we had always to find time for me to rest a bit. I know that's not very productive in the, but it's important to do it because we have different needs. We have different needs. Our bodies are different, so the people around us have to listen to us and, accommodate our needs. Yeah.
Pascal, what did you do when you shot the film?
En fait, nous, on est en documentaire, donc on n'est pas dans une fiction, donc c'est très très différent. Nous, l'idée, c'était d'avoir une équipe très très petite, très légère, avec du matériel conséquent, parce que c'est un film de cinéma, mais on a voulu avoir une équipe très légère pour pouvoir passer beaucoup de temps et de vivre avec eux, en fait. Donc on s'est adapté au rythme de vie de nos personnages, de manière à les laisser vivre comme ils vivent d'habitude. C'était à nous d'anticiper en fait ce qu'ils allaient faire pour toujours être prêts à tourner quand il fallait. Mais on a eu très peu de contraintes à leur donner. On a voulu les laisser vivre comme ils voulaient. Et donc ça a pris plus de temps en fait que prévu. Mais c'était essentiel pour nous de respecter leur manière de se déplacer, le temps que ça prend, la manière de vivre. Et il fallait que ça soit très réaliste. Donc on tournait souvent à plusieurs caméras pour ne pas refaire des séquences. Et donc on s'est adapté en fait à leur vie de tous les jours.
Claire, should be the guidebook for producers, directors, working on these topics when they shoot films or representing disability on screen?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we adopted an access coordinator from high-end TV. Obviously, on like a low budget short, you probably won't have funds to have an access coordinator. Maybe there aren't access coordinators in your country. It's a relatively new innovation in the film industry. However, I think the practice and the mindset is something that you could easily apply to your own sets. So whether that's your producer asking everybody, irrelevant if they have a disability or not, what are your access requirements? Whether that's somebody who's a mother who needs childcare, whether that's somebody who needs to take regular breaks, whether there's somebody who can only work a certain hours in the day. Just having that access first mindset from the very get-go is a great way to make your set more inclusive. I've spoken to a lot of filmmakers who have had learning disabled lead actors, and they put onto their sets everybody wearing name badges, sharing language with the entirety of the crew, so nobody felt awkward whilst working with somebody who has a disability. And then also there's resources out there such as easy read call sheets. So if you have a learning disability, it's very hard to process a lot of information, especially call sheets when they're like line, too much information. So it's trying to figure out other people's communication preferences, and then that will lead to a more accessible, a more inclusive, and a more joyful working environment.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Then the last question, and then we would close. There's a question here in the front.
Yeah, thank you so much for this panel. It's really interesting. My question goes in that direction because, of course, there's so many things that we could imply, and there are so many tools that we can, even in small productions, do, but in the end, it comes down also to money. And I wonder, especially with BFI, or how can you restructure also financing a film to address all this and make it possible actually in the end?
Okay.
I think it's for you. Oh, it was me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm so sorry. Great question. I think it comes down to changing the mindset, to be honest. I think, so at the BFI, we make it a requirement that all productions have to have an access line in their budget. So from the very get-go, you're considering access. You save that money for whether that be access on set or whether that be delivering accessible resources afterwards. So descriptive subtitles, audio description, making sure that the way that you screen films is also accessible. But I completely understand when you're on a shoestring budget, it's incredibly difficult. So I think it's having that human-centered approach and trying to work with the disabled person and figure out what are their needs, whether they know things, maybe they have people that they know, maybe they have discounts, who knows. But use it as a way to problem solve that way is probably better. But yeah, I think from the very get-go, I think it'd be great to see all films in general having an access line in all their budgets and just changing the film industry's mindset so that access is essential. It's not an afterthought.
Thank you very much. I would hereby now close the panel. We have an informal reception after this, so if you have also still questions in your mind for our panelists, please approach them after. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for contributing to the panel, Stavros, Claire, and Pascal. And I wish you all a nice day and the last day of Locarno Pro. Thank you very much.
Thank you.